But music definitely made me a better entrepreneur because I had to manage contracts, manage performances, manage my finances because of the money was so sporadic that I had to look after it very well and stretch it as far as I could. Different problems carry different weights. Yeah, so it's just, I think the key things are health, wealth, relationships, the key stuff. People are always going to spend money on that forever because it's fundamental to humans.
How do you run that line between the emotional sell and the logic behind actually being able to get the results?
This is such a deep question, man.
William Brown. From DJing around the world to building an online trading company up to $16 million and winning the ClickFunnels 2 Comma Club X award before selling it all to private equity. Will has spent more than a decade in the online coaching space, and in this episode, he's going to take us through how he did it with insights from his book, How to $10 Million.
I think you just got to start with small things, like the next thing for you or whatever that is, and just set a small goal and achieve it. Humans like things that are new and that they've never seen or heard of before. I love entrepreneurship, man. I love capitalism because you can build cool things and sell them to help people, and then those people give you money, and it's just the best thing ever.
I've got a quick favour to ask you. Nearly 90% of people listening to this podcast right now don't follow or subscribe to us. And my goal is to get that down to 80%. So if you've ever liked an episode or a clip that we've put out, please could you click that follow or subscribe button. It helps us more than you know to bring more guests onto the podcast and put out better and better content for you. Thank you. Before we dive into this episode, I want to take a second to speak about our sponsor, Pith Stem, who we are thrilled to have on this journey with us. As someone who is always looking for ways to improve my healthy hustle, Pith Stem's DropTop desk stood out to me as the best full work-from-home solution on the market. The world of work from home is changing, and a laptop or screen perched on your lap or dining room table isn't enough anymore. It's imperative that we have a solution at home that matches our productivity station that we can have in our office. But of course, homes weren't made to be worked in, and not all of us want a dedicated study. That's why I'm so happy that Pith Stem created this perfect solution. They designed this desk with both the needs of the professional and their home in mind. It's perfect because it allows me to have a full productivity station that suits my needs and helps me get the most out of every minute that I spend at it, not only so I work comfortably, but that I actually enjoy it. And the best thing about DropTop, I can close and lock it at the end of the day to keep work and home separate. And it looks awesome on the wall. You can get your DropTop desk anywhere in the world from pithandstem.com or just Google DropTop and you'll find it pretty quickly. I think it's really interesting. You've been trying to solve problems for people for a really, really long time. I'm interested in how that journey started before you're a musician or even when you're a musician.
You want me to tell the full story?
I want to hear the first part.
All right, okay. Well, I've pretty much been an entrepreneur since forever, since I was very young, right? And what I mean by that is, so instead of just skateboarding, like a normal child, I took it upon myself to get a camera, get editing software, film, edit, produce the covers in Photoshop when I was like 16 or something. And then I would sell the videos to my friends and buddies, right? So that was my first ever, technically a business, but it made me like no money. Then I got into graffiti. And instead of just painting and writing, I started a magazine and I would interview writers and do all the photography myself. And again, make it in Photoshop. And I saved up some kind of money and produced a few copies and got them stocked in kind of boutique art stores across England. And that was my second quote unquote business, so to speak. I maybe made like £1,000 from that or something, so very small. Then I got into music and DJing, and instead of just buying records like my buddies, I actually started making my own music, right? Electronic music, and that was my first ever kind of proper career. So when I was about 19, I got signed to a pretty good record label. I got an agent and a manager, started touring all over the world. I DJ'd in over 45 countries, played on Boiler Room, all this cool stuff. And that takes me up to about 25. So through that journey, instead of just doing things, I would always make a product and start a business without really knowing what, I wasn't kind of trying to start a business. I wasn't trying to essentially kind of make money as such. I just always would productize the things that I loved. So 25-ish, I was DJing, but still living with my parents, not making very good money. And it got to the stage where my buddies were kind of buying nice cars and getting married and buying a house and stuff. And I had maybe, I don't know, 5, 7, 10K to my name, live with my parents, and money became more important at that stage. Because I was like, well, I can't buy the car that I want. I can't buy a house. I can, I felt very limited. And I stumbled on trading financial markets completely by accident. I saw a documentary on TV one night, opened up a trading account, put £500 in. Through nothing but beginner's luck, with no education, I took that up to about 7, 8, 9K, and then wiped almost all of it in a day. A very common story.
Nice, yeah.
And I then took some remaining money out, bought my first ever course for £300 from this trader called Chris, learned slowly to trade, started a Twitter account just to talk to other traders and share my trades and so on and so forth. Somebody asked me one day for help with their trading. That was my first ever coaching client ever, which is quite cool. And then it all kind of started going from there. That guy paid me £50 to come to my house for 2 hours, and he made a Word document that I then went on to sell for £50 to other people. Then other people's feedback allowed me to make the product better, and then I raised the price. And slowly, that was the start of the last e-learning company that I owned, that I sold last year to a private equity firm, which made 16.4 million cash collected over just above 6 years. And then, I sold it and started this new thing that I'm doing now, which is a company called buildgrowandexit.com, where I help people to build info businesses or grow them or exit them. And that leads up to where we are today, essentially. So I tried to keep that fairly condensed.
It's perfect. I'm really interested in the start of that story, right? So you would never just do something. You'd always build a product or develop something to add value to someone else.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in, how did that come around? Were you around entrepreneurial parents? Were they problem solvers? Like, what was the home life like?
Oh, man. Well, my mum worked at Tesco her entire life for like 40 years or something. So she was definitely not an entrepreneur. My dad was kind of entrepreneurial minded, and he always jumped from little job to job. So he would like manage a pub, and then he was delivering food. Then he was a doctor's assistant. Then he was always bouncing from kind of job to job. So he never started a business. He did always say to me, if I didn't get married, if I didn't have kids, I would have been an entrepreneur. I wanted to move to America, but I couldn't because I was with your mum and I had you. So he kind of would subtly put that on my shoulders over the years, for better or for worse. So he was entrepreneurial minded, but was never an entrepreneur. I think if you combined my mum and dad's incomes, they probably made 35, 40, 45K a year. So, honestly, dude, I don't know where it came from, that desire, because I've always just loved making things.
Yeah.
I like, making the videos, designing the artwork. Nowadays, making the YouTube videos I really love, building the products. I just like creating things,
And even touring around, right, when you were doing the music, you must have been around some people that were problem solving. Maybe you're problem solving yourself in terms of how to make the music or get from place to place. Is that sort of where the skill set started to come from, do you think?
Yeah, I think I've always just bootstrapped it. So for example, when I started making the skateboard videos, I just messed around with the software. And when I was using Photoshop, I just slowly messed around with it. And when it came to making music, I would just slowly try and fail and mess around and stuff. And then you just get a bit better and a bit better. But music definitely made me a better entrepreneur because I had to manage contracts, manage performances, manage my finances because of the money was so sporadic that I had to look after it very well and stretch it as far as I could. It helped me with not only making the music, but getting my own records pressed that I would then sell. And I would design my own like merchandise and stickers and T-shirts and sell that at shows as well. So it taught me a lot about products and pricing and capital management and performance and people and communication and stuff. So I think I soaked up a lot of value from the music career.
And you can see it starting to piece together right now. So you're saying like you had the story's not as linear as some people who are in entrepreneurship might have been, but you can still see these little patterns come together where it's like, that might have helped towards that. Really interesting. So what was the aha moment, right? Because a lot of us have been through a similar journey where you start to get good at something and people will ask you, if you give me 50 quid or 100 quid, will you teach me? I love that way of starting because it means you've already added value without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
What was the aha moment where you went from $50 or £50 for that Word document to this is scalable? This is something I can actually sell and get out of the music industry and make some real money.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm pretty sure it was March or April, I think 2018, when that first guy, Wissam, transacted with me on that £50. And then I tried my luck with messaging a few other followers, and a few people said yes, which maybe things would have been different if that never happened. But they said yes. I made a few more sales. And then they started asking me, oh, Will, there's no images. Can we put images in there? What do I do for this? Can you please put that in there? So they helped me make the product better. They created product market fit for me, really, because they were saying, this is not in there, put it in. This is not in there, put it in, right? And as the product got better, I just tried my luck with pricing. So I was like, would people pay £75? Would people pay £100? And then I made, it went from the Word document started at like 2 pages and ended at maybe 15 with images and whatever else in there. So it became a better product that I was selling for then £200, £300. Then I made some videos to go along with it that were in a Dropbox folder. So then you could buy either basically the ebook for this, or the ebook and the videos for this, or the ebook and the videos and a few hours of coaching with me for this. And it slowly got bigger, and then I ended up with tiers. I had like a bronze, silver, gold, platinum tier. And basically in that first year, I made about £24,000 from the trading education. And I was making about 30-ish from music or thereabouts, depending on the year. So I'd kind of doubled my income. I was doing about 25, 30, 35 from music. I'd done about 25 from the trading thing. I was like, wow, that was my biggest year ever. So then I finally had some kind of capital coming in. And in year 2, I just did things, I just basically did more. So I realized, right, people find me on Twitter and eventually they'll have enough trust and value to buy from me. So how can I get more people to Twitter? I started a YouTube channel and I would send all that traffic back to Twitter to nurture it and convert it into sales. So I kind of figured out the product, I figured out the pricing, I figured out traffic, I figured out trust and conversion. And this was all bootstrapped with no help at all, just kind of common sense and fumbling around. The second year we did about £250,000 cash. And then I realized, like, this is some serious shit. In that second year, man, I was like, fuck music. All right, I don't want to go to Sweden for £600 and go to New York for £900. Like, when I can make all this money from trading and selling the education. And then music went down, the education company went up. We did I found Alex Becker, if you know who that is, in December of the second year. I learned from Alex about ads and funnels and webinars and proper pricing and stuff. Then we did, I think it was £1.3 million cash the third year, and then it just went crazy from there. So.
And this is when you started to introduce paid ads and scaling it through that?
Yeah, and then we turned, so I made a webinar, we turned on YouTube ads to the auto webinar, selling one thing for $2,000, which is basically just everything that I could give to people in one program. And yeah, that's what got us to the £1.3 million cash, and then we just went from there, really.
Before we started, we touched on someone we both know, Dan Priestley, and I've heard you be compared to him before, in an interesting way, because you've just gone from nothing to investing in mentors to growing it up and having all these different avenues. And something that he's always sticks in my mind whenever I'm overthinking something, he'll always say, hone it in the market, not your mind. And it's exactly what you've done there, right? If I can sell it for $50, £50, I can sell it for 100. What do I have to add to make it worth 2,000? And I think it's such a good way to go. And so many people, I think, that we work with are just blocked by their own mindset of it's not worth it. Or what do you think? That question, what do you think? What do you think? Your book would help them quite a lot.
I should hope so.
I think it will. So how to 10 million. And one of the things you talk about in there is how to solve a bleeding neck problem.
Yeah.
Which I could have a go at explaining, but it's probably better for you just to explain what that means and why people get stuck at that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before I answer that, let me just touch on what you just said, because it's so important. You, like me, you probably get a lot of people that maybe say, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of this offer? What do you think of this VSL? What do you think of these ads? And I always say to people, look, by this stage, I can make an informed prediction, right? But the truth is, you don't know, I don't know, only the market knows. So get it out there, get the feedback, and let the market tell you, do they buy it or not? What's the numbers behind it? Then sort it out from there, kind of thing. So you've just got to, I'm a big fan of make a mess and then clean it up. Make a mess and then clean it up. Just get something bloody out there and then just learn, So that's my attitude. For better or for worse, sometimes it's, but it is what it is. That's the best way, in my opinion, to do it. Now, the bleeding neck problem, essentially it's like if someone has a big pain, they're going to pay to solve it, So, I mean, I'll give you 2 examples. I've got a client who sells like a knitting community and does about 18K a month, right? Very small numbers. And equally, last month we did 424K cash collected. So bloody monstrous numbers, right? Knitting is very different to business growth because over here, this is a weighty problem. This can make people immensely wealthy, and it's just a bigger, hairier problem, and it's more of a important thing to solve. Knitting is not going to, it's not life or death. It's a fun, light thing, and if you like it, it's like a small hobby. No disrespect to anyone that loves knitting, but by the way, okay, to knitters, I love you and respect you. But different problems carry different weights, so it's just, I think the key things are health, wealth, relationships, the key stuff. People are always going to spend money on that forever because it's fundamental to humans, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're looking at is, if someone's neck is bleeding, they're going to solve that before having the toenails painted.
Exactly. I'm going to use that in the future.
You should. It's okay.
It's good.
We'll take that one. And you mentioned just before that about making a mess, which a bleeding neck will make a massive mess, right? But in the same sense, making a mess in the market is a good way just to find out what sticks.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at your YouTube journey. Because when everyone was going one way, you went the other way. And I know you've been doing YouTube for a long time, but I wrote down in my notes that I think I've been aware of you for about a year.
Okay.
And there's this overnight success thing that happens where people go, whoa, who's this guy who's popped up? Maybe like January this year, right, your YouTube channel went insane.
Yeah.
And so people go, oh, wow, he's just popped into Dubai. He's just done it overnight. And it's like, no, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've done this. I'm in Forbes, whatever.
Yeah.
So what were you doing on YouTube when you went left and everyone else was going right?
Yeah, well, this is a good example of making a mess and cleaning it up because do you remember the first video that you ever saw of mine?
It was a whiteboard.
Okay.
But it was, would it have been in Bali?
I honestly don't know, man. I can't remember. But
you hadn't moved into your flat, I don't think.
Well, when I started YouTube, I think one of my first big videos that got a lot of views was the day that I sold the company to the private equity firm.
Yeah.
And literally about 3-4 hours after that, I sat down in front of my computer, I ordered a coffee, I pressed record, and I was like, I've just sold my company. And
it was that one.
Yeah, and I thought I'd make a video about it. And if I don't do it now, it won't be authentic. So I've got to do it right now. And basically, here's what happened. And I just told the story, kind of just with no notes, no plan. I thought of the title, and I thought, that's a good title. I better make it now. I made it now and uploaded it. And no plan, no expectations. My channel was tiny. I probably had less than 1,000 subscribers.
But I think was there a link to Forbes already?
I
feel like it was related soon after that, maybe.
I think the Forbes article came out a few weeks after the sale, I think. Pretty sure. Or thereabouts. But yeah, that was my biggest ever video at the time. I think it's got over 100,000 views now. And so many people reached out when that video came out. Some massive people were reaching out to me, like people that I looked up to. Like, I've just seen the video. I love the video. I love the format. I love how you've just told the story, and it's a great video. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So I put in no effort, and it was a massive video. And I'd made a few before that where I'd planned, I'd done a good title, what I thought was a good title, good thumbnail, planned it out. It was really hard to fucking make. It was really awkward to make, and they did shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, when I try hard, it's shit. When I just keep it real and don't try hard, it does amazing. So let me just do more of this, you know. And then I made this 10K a month video that's got over 500,000 views, same style. I made this story video about something, I can't remember, same style. And my channel bloody went mental, man. Absolutely mental.
So how do you stop yourself? So there's two different things. Have you done any of Ali Abdul's stuff as well on the YouTube bits?
No.
Or any of his content's really good on YouTube just because it's like, he just talks about growing a YouTube channel, not about monetizing or anything like that. But the point is that when I watch his stuff, I'm like, he almost takes down this avenue of put this stuff out, and then whatever they like, if they like really nicely produced stuff or story stuff, follow that path because you'll grow a channel. How do you stop yourself doing that and going towards, okay, which ones actually drive leads or whatever you're actually looking for, the real metric?
That's true. Well, so two things on that. Number one, we use Hyros to track all the sales calls that come from every video. So we've got like a master spreadsheet with every video on there, how many calls it's booked, how many sales came from each video. And then we learn from that. You know, we uploaded like a mindset video recently and we booked like the most calls we'd ever booked before. And I was like, oh, wow, interesting. So it's a mindset video. It's got nothing to do with these things. And this has booked the most calls. And we got a lot of sales from it as well. So I was like, right, well, I've learned that now. I can do another similar video in the future to try and achieve the same thing. Sometimes we put out a video about something and we book very few calls and maybe get very few sales. So then it's like, okay, let's not do that again. So that's how we learn. We just track using Hyros, essentially. And whenever anyone asks me, like, right, I want to start a channel, what should I do? I actually say something similar to that. So I always say to them, look, make 10 whiteboard videos, make 10 unedited talking head videos, make 10 super highly edited, planned out, good title and thumbnail, you know, really high production value videos, and just see what resonates with the audience. You know, just run batches and just see, do you get any outliers? What is it like on the booked call front? Because, you know, I've always been a fan of like testing like a scientist, you know, because otherwise you just get lost. So I always think in like sample sizes and batches and tests and stuff, which is always, maybe that comes from trading because trading is very much like that. But I think if you run those batches, again, you're just letting the market tell you, aren't you, what it wants. And then when you get an outlier, it's like, right, this is what the market wants. Let's do more of that, you know.
Exactly. You know, we do a bit of work on podcasting, but a lot of work on LinkedIn. And people will say, you know, this post didn't get as many calls booked as this one, or as many leads. And it's like, yeah, but look at what it's trying to achieve. If it's got more calls booked, it's because you're speaking to a better pain point. So it's not look at the vanity metrics of likes or whatever, trying to, you know, blackmail the algorithm on any of these platforms. What you're looking at is what is actually working. And I think there's loads of people at the minute who are doing a brilliant job of speaking to a very niche audience. The knitting is actually a great example, right? To make 17K a month off of knitting, there's probably a lot of people in that community. And I think, you know, I'm interested in your opinion at the minute on just entrepreneurship in general. Everyone's an entrepreneur right now. Everyone's got these Stripe screenshots showing what they've made. But there's really nice ways that people are getting around this, like Russ Brunson and the way that he shows his awards, or, you know, people that have actually done it. They've actually had stuff written about them, and they're on podcasts or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions in here actually, because the last thing I'll say on that is that, you know, Trump won the election last week, and they're putting it down to podcasts because it's 95% of people don't skip ads. It's an incredibly engaged audience. You're usually there for the host, and then the guest gets brought in, and they think a lot of it is down to this authority that you get from these different kinds of media. So yeah, I'm interested in your opinion on entrepreneurship in general, and how do you run that line between the emotional sell and the logic behind actually being able to get the results? This is such a deep question, man.
We said we'd get there. There's so many avenues I could take to answer this. Well, look, what I think of entrepreneurship, I think I love entrepreneurship, man. I love capitalism because you can build cool things and sell them to help people, and then those people give you money, and it's just the best thing ever. You know, especially if you're doing it in a way where you love it in somewhat, whatever you're doing. I mean, coaching is the best, in my opinion, because you get to be good at something, share it with other people, which is fun, and then get money in return. It's like it's just the best thing in the world. It's just amazing. You know, when so many people out there hate their job, they don't make much money, and we're out here just having fun and making loads of money. It almost doesn't make sense, but it is real and it is amazing. So I just love entrepreneurship and capitalism and money and, you know, building money, growing it, investing it. It's just a fascinating game to me. But I don't know. You're going to have to ask me another question to reset my train of thought.
Okay, so how do we run that line between the people that are out here just showing pictures of Stripe links saying I've made this much money, and the ones who actually have value? Because there's so many coaching programs. So how do we actually define that ours is going to massively add value to you?
Got it. Well, my advice would be to look at people's accolades, right? So in the lead up to selling my last company, right, I knew that I wanted to do I hate the word business coaching, but it's essentially business coaching that I'm doing right now, bottom line. In the lead up to doing it, I was thinking, right, how can I be at the top of the market? What's going to make me different, and what's going to allow people to choose me over others? And it comes down to accolades, right? So I was like, how many accolades can I stack? So I thought, right, selling my company to a private equity firm is one massive one that almost no one has. I'll take that. Getting the ClickFunnels 10 million award was another. And I was like, right, I'll get that and I'll put it in the back of my videos. It's something that very few people have. It's a real tangible thing. You've got to submit your financials to win that award, so it's pretty proof heavy. I was like, cool, I'll do that. Then I'll start a YouTube channel, and I'll hopefully allow people to resonate with me and my personality and just the way that I am, to hopefully give myself an edge there as well. And I'll build the biggest channel that I can so that I've got the most authority as possible. Then I was like, then I'll go on podcasts and just do my best there to kind of just build the awareness. And I can rest on the fact that we scaled the last company to 16.4 million cash, and the biggest month being 824K cash. So I was just trying to stack accolades, right, so that I stood out in the market. And it is quite a crowded market. The further up you go, the less so, but you've got to give people a reason to work with you, whether that is how much money you've made, how far you've gone in whatever career or niche that you're in, any awards that you've won, maybe, you know, just you've got to have these separators, these accolades that set you apart. And if you don't have them, it's a bit harder. Still possible, but harder. And if you do have them, it's easier, and you can kind of move faster and rise to the top a little bit faster as well. So that's kind of the way that I would. So if I was giving advice to someone, I would say, well, who's got what you want? You know, so if you want to make $1 million a month, well, the person you choose had better have made $1 million a month, right? If you want a value lifestyle and you want to live in Dubai, well, work with someone that probably lives in Dubai, because they are where you want to be, right? If you want to sell a business one day, probably wise to work with someone who sold a fucking business, you know? So just look at who you want to be, who's got what you want, then look at their accolades. And if it all adds up, that's your person to work with.
Yeah. I just want to briefly interrupt this podcast so I can talk to you about Nutrition Kitchen, who have kindly sponsored this episode. As entrepreneurs who are looking to stay as healthy as possible, fueling ourselves with high quality food without breaking the bank or wasting time can be tough day to day. Nutrition Kitchen solves that issue by delivering incredible meals to your door, tailored to your diet, whether you're trying to lose weight, build muscle, or maintain balance. They change their menus all the time so you can choose from a variety of dishes and leave the monotony of meal prepping behind. Now, back to our guest. And I think one of the things you've done since I've followed you, right, is that you've been very open with your goals. So you showed that your vision board had this apartment on, and I think you might have even shown a car, like a cool car, but nothing showy.
Yeah.
And you were like, "This is where I want to live." And within 6 months of showing that, you're like, "Welcome, I'm living here." And so it's not just the undeniable social proof; it's also the awards and that you say, but it's also aiming for something and hitting it. There's so many people that just aim for stuff and then they don't hit it, and it's like, where did that go? I've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
But do you want to say something?
Go on.
Well, I was going to move it on.
Well, I was just going to say how important that's been in my life, just being clear exactly what I want, you know, because if you don't know exactly what you want, it's like being in a car with no end destination. You're just driving around, and you're never going to get to really where it is that you want to go. So I think it's really important. I learned this from Sam Ovens when I was in Sam's mastermind, the whole alchemy of self-document thing, where you plan out your goals in order, one by one. You have your vision board with the things that you want on it. You design the person that you need to be to get what you want. And then when you're clear on that, you can get it all a lot faster, you know. So you've got to really know what you want. And the more granular that you can be, the faster and easier you're going to get it, you know, and then you can work back the steps to get what you want. So it's really important, man, to know what you want.
And that bit is so hard though, isn't it? Because so many people just, when they start out, they aim for 100 million, or I want to plant 1,000 million trees. It's ridiculous. And they can never get to that arena, you know, in the short term, because they overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what they can do in the long term.
Dude, I clearly remember I remember when I was like 23, my massive goal for my entire life was to rent an apartment in Manchester's Northern Quarter for like £600 a month, get a second-hand 3 Series BMW, and own 1 or 2 properties where the rent would cover my bills so I could just do music for fun. That was like my wildest dream, you know? So, I don't know, I think you've just got to start with small things, like the next thing for you, or whatever that is, and just set a small goal and achieve it, and then another, and then achieve it, and you build momentum over time.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, small, achievable goals, momentum, that builds confidence, right? It's one of the biggest things we all need is more confidence. What I was going to mention is, I've seen you talk about before, and I think this is really interesting, and it's a bit different, is the unique mechanism that you think everyone needs to have when they're doing some sort of coaching business. And I will bring this back to YouTube ever so slightly, just because when everyone was doing the full-on graphic design, really well-edited videos, you were doing no thumbnail, me and my white t-shirt with a whiteboard, talking to camera, no edits. Maybe there was edits in there, but I think it was, you know, an edit that was, you were showing the raw side of you. And one of this video that sticks in my mind is the one where you're talking about having these unique mechanisms. And I think that's really interesting, because if someone says, can I book 10 leads a week for you? You go, oh, I don't trust you. But if they say, and you'll give a better example than I will, but something like, I found this new incredible system utilizing TikTok, and I'll build this out for you. Like, where did that come from?
It even sounds exciting.
Doesn't it? I can feel myself leaning in. I'm saying it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just really, it's a bit of a psychological play, because humans like things that are new and that they've never seen or heard of before. So if you can create something that at least sounds new, you know, and you can make it believable, then it's going to help people latch onto it. And then you can deliver the real value on the back end. And it can either be some kind of name or strategy or technique or something that you've created and kind of put a name on, or it can be accolades as well. Sometimes you can use your accolades as your mechanism, you know. So there's 3 business coaches. One has, I don't know, sold a business. That's their unique thing. One has scaled to 5 million a month, which is super rare. Wow, that's their unique thing. One has done nothing. Well, you're going to choose one of these 2. So, you know, your accolades and what you've achieved can be your unique mechanism, or it can be something like, for me in my last company, it was mechanical rules. You know, so I just thought of that, and someone else had mentioned it to me, another very non-known, very unknown trader, and just mechanical rules. It just fit the way that I approach the markets, because again, I've got a very scientific brain. You know, I'm always thinking in terms of numbers and data and just scientific testing. So mechanical rules fit me, and also that was the complete opposite to the way that most people were trading back then, because they were trading just using bloody best guesses, essentially, indicators, bloody trend lines, all this nonsense. So people are like, what's that? You know, I've never heard of that before. It's like, oh, wow, I can just follow rules. I don't need to do any of this work or stress or thinking. I can just follow the rules. My God, you know, that mechanism is really responsible for most of my success.
Wow. It feels more reliable as well when you say there's a mechanism that I'm using that no one else is using.
Exactly. And just nobody else was saying it like that. Other people were trading using rules, but they would not describe it as well as me, and they wouldn't market it as well as me. They wouldn't sell it as well as me. They didn't have my background in product development as well. So I just had a lot of edges, and then that was like the cherry on top. That was just a fuel on the fire. I think the trading company, man, like, I'd already done so many other things. I'd learned design, I'd learned product development, I'd learned pricing, I'd learned capital management, I'd learned marketing and sales from being a musician. So I had this big, kit, and then that was just the perfect time, the perfect opportunity, the perfect mechanism, and it all just, with time and patience and learning, it just went crazy. So, if you can bolt on a good mechanism, it's going to make a massive difference.
For me, it just builds intrigue as well. You can't stop yourself from leaning in and being like, oh, I'm just going to have to know this.
Yeah.
Even if there's like a P4C or like a small product, what's the intro thing? I can be like, what is that thing? And if your intro thing is 5K, you've got them in, right? And they're going to really work hard for it, and it's going to really get more results.
Exactly.
I think that's really, really interesting. And I'm interested in your opinion on intrigue, and especially on the organic content side, or even just the way that you get leads, because Hormozy is probably the best, or the most recent person for saying this, where he says, just give everything. Just keep left jabbing until, Gary Vee would say after a while, give and ask, but he's like, no.
Yeah.
And I think you've got a different opinion on how you should actually give something. Because, anecdotally, our lead magnets usually just give. We're like, there's everything. If you need a bit of accountability, we can help you, or we can do it for you. But I think your opinion is different. I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My opinion is, if you give people everything, I mean, number one, you can never give them everything that they need outside of a full-on training program anyway. But let's say I made the most valuable YouTube video that I could, and it was like 1 or 2 or 3 hours long. Oh, man. Well, number one, that's too big and long for most people to even digest. If they try, there's no coaching, there's no accountability. They can't ask me questions. They'll try. They'll almost certainly fail, and then they'll blame me, right? So it's my belief that you shouldn't try and give everything away, because people will try and fail. It's better to just give them nuggets of value, right? But just make it clear, if you really want to succeed, you need to come in to the program and let me hold your hand, let me coach you one-to-one, go through the training program. It's built, properly, in order, in sections, everything that you need to know, so that, when you watch it, you genuinely know everything. It's just, that's the best way, in my opinion. And I'm a big fan of kind of wow, not how, right? So I talk about this in the book. I want people to say wow, but not fully know the how, because then they can't go and fail. So if they want the how, let's do it properly. Come into the bloody program and let's do it properly. So
do you think there's a crossover point between giving and doing what you're saying there? Just because I'm thinking back to YouTube, or in my opinion, some of the best YouTube channels are the ones where a very knowledgeable person is just coming to YouTube, because what they do is they give so much. And then if you're that way inclined, you'd be like, right, I can take from this, and I can learn, I can implement it in my own business, and I can grow.
Yeah.
As they get more and more developed, they tend to give less. You don't realize they're giving less. You can't implement as much, but you're still getting that motivation and that intrigue. And it works, I guess, in my mind in the same way as lead magnets. Someone who's got a smaller business might give more so that you are wowed. And then someone who has a slightly bigger business, or is maybe more well-versed, they'll understand that maybe you should do what you're saying there, which is give them a certain amount, but not everything. Do you think there's a crossover line, or maybe not with your clients or yourself?
Well, there is a crossover line, because I've given everything away in the book, to be honest.
True.
I mean, the book is actually my training program in written form, So if anybody watching this is thinking, I don't want to buy a training program or something, well, my book is the training program in words. And it's like everything is in that book. So that is the one and only place where I give people everything. That's literally every single thing that I've ever learned over the last 8 years is in the book in order, right? And it's like £10 or something. So the book is, I truly believe it's very valuable, man. The feedback has been bloody amazing. But equally, someone that joined the program last week said, Will, I read your book. And I was like, where the fuck do I start? I need you to just tell me what the hell to do. So it still works both ways. You can still give it all away. And again, it's just too much for people. I think it's good if you're already moving, you've already got a business, and you can just take a nugget and implement it. But then at the end of the day, give people value. Just bloody, whether it's a book, whether it's a blog, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel, give people value. Some people are going to want your help.
I guess a lot of it comes down to familiarity, right? Like with you, there's so many ways that people can consume your stuff now, podcasts and interviews and book and course or whatever, that over time you've got that 7-4-11 where people know you enough to know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I guess it has worked. Well, of course it's worked, but like it's worked in a different way to a lot of people where they give a little bit or give a lot, whatever. I think it's a really interesting concept because most people just go, give everything, give it all away. But I hadn't actually thought about what if they take it and they do it and it works, that's brilliant. But you probably just lost yourself a client, but maybe that's the point. And then the other one is they hate you because it hasn't worked.
That's more frequent than people think, man. You know, that's more, and people, that can actually damage your business. So for me, I just want to give people very valuable nuggets, you know, in the YouTube videos. And I give a lot away in them that is actionable. But man, it's just nothing compared to the book or the training program. And even again, the book, it's a book, for God's sakes. Yeah. There's only so much you can do with a bloody book. So, but yeah, fundamentally, just give people value and people are going to work with you. And like you said, even if people do get results, amazing, they will want to join your mastermind or something. Or they might just buy an hour of your time eventually or something as well. So, because
you're the sensei, you've become the sensei.
Exactly.
So what does the perfect training program look like to you? When you're building your own or when you go on someone else's, what do you go, wow, this has ticked my boxes?
Well, the best way to build one is to start with an MVP, put people in it, and then learn from the people and build it to what they want and need, essentially. That's what I did with this program. It's completely different to where it started out now. But basically, the way that I built this was I started just doing one-to-one coaching, no program. I made notes. Every single time I had a call, I would write down, you know, what were we working on? What problems are we solving? Where are they at? What do they need? And then when I'd done 6 or 7 or 8 clients, I went back through all the notes and then built the program to solve all of that stuff, essentially. So I think that's the best way to build a program, really, is either start with one-to-one coaching, make notes, then build a program, or build an MVP, put people in it, and then learn from people over time. Kind of like I did with the Word document.
Yeah, exactly.
As well. Just let people build your program for you.
And then make sure you just stay on the right path that you want to fulfill. Like we spoke about with YouTube, you don't get sidetracked one way or the other.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So what's, in your mind, if someone comes to you, and maybe they wouldn't come to you at this amount of money, but if they're doing 20K a month, 100K a month, $1 million a month, what are the differences that you would look at and go, okay, this is where I would help you, this is where I can't help you, this is what it looks like to have a perfect program or a good program at those levels?
Well, so for me, I want to work with as many people as possible, right? So we work, I mean, again, we've got the 3 programs, build, grow, exit. So for people that are smaller or new, they go in there. For people that are further ahead, they go in there. People that want to sell, they go in there. But the training program's actually exactly the same.
Oh, cool.
Right? And the program is built. This is like a sales video for the fucking program, isn't it? I'm going to keep this very brief. But it's built in a way where if you're new, you start at the top. If you're further ahead, you start around the middle, right? So it starts with offer and price and niche and mechanism and funnel. Then it's like putting it together, building it, getting it out there, tracking your numbers, evolving it, making it bigger and better, and then so on and so forth. So yeah, wherever anyone is at, they can come into it. And I would suggest that for other programs as well. Like one of the newer clients said to me, well, should I work with beginners or should I work with people further ahead in the e-com space? And I said, well, who do you want to work with? He was like, oh, I'd love to help everyone. I was like, well, then you can, you know, do what we do and have like a start, a beginner thing, and then more advanced build and grow thing. And it can be the same program, just have it in maybe 2 parts. The first part is this, the second part is this. So if you're new, you start from there and go down. If you're there, you start in the middle and go down. That's what I would suggest.
Makes sense, right? Because you're capturing people where they already are.
Yeah.
It's the same, does that work the same with when you think about landing pages and stuff? Because people come to us and they're always blocked at something like a landing page, like a physical thing where they've thought about it, they understand it, and they're like, yeah, but I've now got to write a VSL or a landing page or whatever it might be. Would you have different landing pages to test against your different ads, or how do you look at it?
Yeah, so someone asked me this a few days ago, and I said to them, so number one, I don't usually suggest opt-in pages. I usually just go straight to VSL because you get, because one of the biggest bottlenecks is an opt-in, right? So removing that can, in most cases, it's very helpful, not always. But if I was going to make an offer, like let's just say fitness offer right now, I would make ads for women that have this problem, ads for women that have that problem, ads for men that have this problem, ads for men that have that problem. You know, I'd make a whole bunch of ads with different angles for different people. And I would run the ads to one opt-in, or maybe two opt-ins. But it's really the ads that I'm looking at. So I want to know what is the ad data? You know, can we figure out what's the hottest market based on the ads first? Then when we know that, then we can start playing with the opt-in to align the opt-in with this main promise that's performing the best. So that's one way to do it, which is, in my opinion, a bit of a simpler way. Another way is just to have various funnels. Mm-hmm. So one ad and opt-in and VSL for this promise, one ad opt-in and VSL for that promise, and just literally test all the way through the funnel. You know, so yeah.
And I guess the thing that people struggle with there is they want to put $1,000 behind ad spend. It takes them 6 weeks, and they're not really sure that there's statistical significance. Or struggle with that, and therefore they get a bit blind, right? They're getting blind in the clouds because they're like, I'm not actually sure what's going on here. So how would you start with ads? Because I've seen your ads. Your ads are brilliant, and I've seen, you know, like Charlie Morgan spends like what $6,000 a day on his ads. He gets the amount of knowledge he has from just doing that. Like, where would you start with someone who's listing and is like, I've got a service business or a product business. Maybe they're running ads already, but they're not sure how to take it to the next level. What would be the fundamental thing where you go, this is probably where you're going wrong?
Yeah. Well, all businesses just grow up to a bottleneck. You know, so wherever any of our businesses are right now, there is something wrong that's stopping us from doubling the business, right? Mm-hmm. For us right now, well, I won't go into it for the minute, but every business has a bottleneck. Mine does, yours will. Everybody watching this that has a business, there is a bottleneck right now, which is stopping you from growing the business. So when people work with me, the first thing I do is figure that out. I'm like, where is the problem? Is it the ads? Is it the VSL? Is it the sales script? Is it you or your sales team closing? Is it the pricing? Is it you don't have a back end and you need one for the LTV? What is the problem? So you've got to know the problem. And if you don't know the problem, that's bad. Like you need to get some help with that and know what it is. And if you do know the bottleneck, you can get on with solving it. You know, so that's the foundation of not only what I do, but what we should all be doing as well.
I love that it always goes back to testing as well. I think it's so funny when people think, I'm going to go and learn this. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have access to more experiments probably.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's still testing. And they're like, no, I want to know the path. And there's not a path, right? It's just different ways of doing it, and you've got to learn from different people.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, when you've been doing this for a very long time, like if we sat down with, say, Alex Becker right now, or with Sam Ovens right now, or with Alex Amosi right now, they would probably have a very good idea what's going to work to quite a degree of accuracy, right? When I work with people, for the most part, it's quite clear. I'm like, no, you need to do that, and that will almost certainly work. So sometimes you can crack it first time, just from knowledge and experience. But sometimes that's not possible, and you do have to test things.
I'm really interested in the mindset there as well, because I genuinely believe people that we know a lot of them are hit with the mindset factor, and the bottleneck is actually their mindset, where they might make a certain amount or whatever, and they get to the point where they go, I now don't know how to get to the next step. And Alex Hormozi famously does self-coaching, which I've tried for the last 6 months, and it's brilliant because you just write an email to yourself as if you were 70 years old, and you look back and you just think so clearly through all the issues of confidence, embarrassment, or whatever you might be facing, and you go, this is what I would do because I'm 70, I don't really care. So how do you combat, or have you ever had to combat the mindset issue of imposter or whatever, where you've gone, wow, I'm making a lot of money and more than my parents or whatever it is, and how do you combat that?
Yeah, there's all these kind of mindset hacks. So one is the alchemy of self-document, right? Getting clear on who you need to be to get to where you want to go. Why do you want what you want? What are your goals and ambitions, and why? You know, how much money do you actually really want to make? Very few people know that. Very few people know how much they really want to make and why, and what they're even going to do with the money. Very few people know that. It's very important. So the foundation, what do you want? Why do you want it? What's the plan to get it? Who do you need to be to get it? That's the foundation. Everybody should know those 4 things, right? Then it's more about when you get stuck, when things go wrong. One of my buddies has this thing where he will record a loom or a screen recording of himself, asking himself questions. You know, he'd be like, right, I'm thinking of doing this. You know, I tried this and it didn't work. What should I do? Then he goes to bed and he'll watch it the next morning and answer it for himself. So very similar to what you just said.
Yeah.
You know, so that's one way to do it, is sit down and pretend that you're about to coach yourself and ask yourself the questions, go to bed and forget it, wake up, watch it back and try and answer your own questions. Right? That can be very, very useful. Another thing is the email, you know, the kind of future looking back email. Another thing that I do as well is I just write in my journal a lot, you know, and I always just write loads of random things, but like, right, at the moment, we did this last month, we're tracking to do this month, the problem at the moment is this, I'm going to solve it by doing this, you know, and then I can always look back at what I was thinking and doing the months and years ago and track what worked and what didn't as well. And I kind of set projections and I just track everything in the journal, basically. And then you can look back on the successful tests and the failed tests and just, it's kind of like you can just see inside your head going backwards, and then it makes you better going forwards. So that's another thing is the journal, which is super powerful.
Which is wicked. So we've been doing that for about 5 years, and it's so funny that you look back at 5 years ago, the problems that were massive on that day, you almost laugh because you go, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But I'm interested in your opinion on, you mentioned there tracking your data. So many people, I don't think, track their data closely enough. Views on YouTube or podcasts, they're not talking about sales calls booked, ad spend, CPM. How important is it to you in your business?
Critical. It's 100% critical.
And so how often are you looking at the data, the forecast?
Well, I've got an assistant that updates like 7 different tracking sheets like every day. And then I look at it, if there's a problem, I look at it more. If there's no problem, I look at it less, right? But I'll look at it at least once every 2 weeks, you know. And we track bloody everything. I mean, the obvious stuff, you know, like bloody close rate and just all the obvious stuff. But right down to, we track how many YouTube views does it take to book a call, you know.
Cool.
We track the close rate per video, you know, so we can understand, like the mindset thing was by far the most calls. So now we've learned that. And, you know, we track how many views this month, how many calls this month, just bloody everything, just everything.
Okay, so if I was gonna open your book, How to 10 Million, and there was one thing you could put in there to track, it's hard, but what would you say? What would the thing be where you go, if you're not tracking this, you're never gonna get there?
It's actually quite easy, yes. So for me, it's total liquid cash.
Oh, okay.
So I've basically got like a net worth spreadsheet. It's got all my real estate on, all my bank accounts on, all investment accounts on. And then you can know your net worth. And I also track every 7 days, I write down the date and all my liquid cash, right? Whatever that number is. And when it goes up a lot, I write down what I've done. And when it goes down a lot, I write what I've done, you know? And then I can gauge, right, what activities make the cash go up, what activities make it go down. You can see your mistakes in there.
See the margins as well.
You can see the margins. And ever since I started tracking my liquid cash, I've made way more money a lot faster.
No way. So I love that. There's a really, I think it's Layla Hormozi who does this test where she says, I imagine, or I think she actually did it, I'm on a beach and I can only receive 6 figures from my assistant for the business. I can't talk about anything. I can only see those 6 figures. And you got the delta to the week before or whatever. And she just picks, I can't remember what they are, but I think one of them is cash at bank. Like what are those figures that I need to see where I can glance at it and go, good, we're up, or no, critical, we're down. I just think that's such a cool way of looking at it. There's a lot of fluff around metrics. And this is why people get embarrassed about, or not embarrassed, but they're against tracking. Yeah,
I mean, I think for us, that would probably be booked sales calls averaged per day, and cash in total cash reserves, close rate of the calls. So are we booking calls? Because that's critical, because that's the lifeblood. Are we closing the calls? Right? What's the cash? Because that's equally the lifeblood. And those are probably the main 3, in my opinion, because that's the driver. You know, maybe client retention as well. The churn, because we charge monthly.
I want to talk about
the fees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just the retention, renewals, looking after the clients, keeping them on board. Those would probably be the ones that come to mind for me.
Yeah, because then the next question is just, well, where's the traffic gone? Like, why has it gone away if the calls are going down or something? Is it YouTube? Is it whatever?
Yeah, and to add on, that's a good point, in the YouTube views as well, because essentially our machine is YouTube views at the top, then booking calls from the views, taking and closing the calls from the views, and then keeping the customers for as long as possible. That's basically the machine.
Yeah.
So.
But coming back to the pricing point there, and I'm interested in your pricing model. And again, authenticity comes through this conversation every single time, because most people, you see it everywhere, especially in Dubai, PIF, paid in full. We've got to do paid in full. Everyone has to charge paid in full up front. They're not going to buy in otherwise. You don't do that, right? You do the opposite.
We do the opposite.
Is it weekly or monthly you can pay?
Monthly.
So why do you do monthly? So someone can come in, this is what everyone's going to say listening to this, they can come in, nick all your stuff and leave. So why don't they?
Well, in my last business, it was very one-time heavy, right? We didn't have any recurring revenue apart from payment plans, of course. And it was a battle. It was a bloody battle. It was a real struggle. We had to do that because of ads, because otherwise we had to collect as much cash as possible because we were spending bloody loads of money on ads, right? And this business now is basically all the things I did wrong, I'm now doing right. So, for example, that was all ads. Now it's all organic. That was a massive team. Now I've got a tiny team. That was one time. Now it's recurring. So I've just learned a lot of lessons from that old business. Now, for me, if my programs were one time, we've got 3 programs: group coaching program, one-to-one coaching program, done for you program, right? 4,000 a month US for the group, 9,000 a month US for the one-to-one, 15,000 a month US for the done for you, right? And the average stick rate is about 3 months for all of those programs. It's about 3 months, slightly higher for the done for you, about 4 months. Now, if those were one-time programs, right, the group wouldn't be 4 a month. It would be 15K or something. The one-to-one wouldn't be 9 a month. It'd be like 35K. The done for you wouldn't be 15 a month. It'd be like 75K or something. For me personally, right, I would prefer lower monthly. Me personally, if I was buying something, I'd prefer lower but monthly. I would respect the flexibility, so I give that to my customers. Basically, I always try and think of the customer first, right? So that's why we operate that model.
I really like that. So we do a similar thing where we go, it's monthly, but after 3 or 4 months, we give them the option. Do you see yourself working with us in 5 years' time? And then they go, maybe not. What 2? What about 1? And if they say yes at 1, we go, okay, do you want to pay for the 1 now? So then they have the option to get, that's the response rate for that is they get a discount. But I really like the idea of you being like, well, if we don't work, you can cancel it next month, gone. And of course you can do that with us, but it's different ways of doing it. I really like that way of doing things because it just feels like there's higher integrity there. Like I can ask you a question. How do you keep that retention high? 3 or 4 months, how do you keep it? Because obviously they're just going to quit after 30 days if it's a scam.
Yeah, I mean, look, some people come in with one problem, they solve it and leave. And that's okay.
Perfect, though.
So if people have like one thing to solve, and we can solve it in 30 days if we can, come in and leave. That's okay. I don't want to trap people. I've got enough bloody money. I don't need to trap people. But there is one thing that's in the program. So like the 5th module down is basically the entire end-to-end roadmap from 0 to $1 million a month and all the phases and steps, right? And I say to people, there's like 9 steps. Where are you right now? And then people will find out where they are. Let's say they're in phase, 3. So they are getting traffic, they're booking and closing calls, they're making money, they're profitable, right? Now it's time to either scale and work on the back end or hire or whatever. And since I put that module in there, people have stayed longer because instead of coming in and solving one problem, they can see the next problem, right? So we've had a done-for-you client that's just gone into his 4th month, I think 4th or 5th month. And, month 1 and 2, we built everything from scratch. Month 3, we turned it on and we were booking calls and closing calls. Month 4, we hired the first closer. Now we're hiring the second and taking the ads from YouTube to Instagram and Meta. Then we'll hire, blah, blah, blah. So, and when people can see the full journey, and they're making money as well, a lot more than bloody paying you, they want to stay and keep going through the phases and solve the next problem and the next problem and the next problem,
It's such a good answer.
So
It's such a good answer. Why do people stay? How do you increase retention? Make it better. Make it work.
Yeah.
It's such a good answer. Okay, so what are you doing differently from the trading business to this business that's improving the business but also your life?
Dude, one big one is no ads. Yeah. Now we've just started running ads at bloody tiny scale, like $100 bloody a day, so miniature scale. But organic has been the number one game changer, man. Because when it's paid ads, you've got to fight, to close people, because there's very little trust. They're quickly pushed through a sales process. So it's a battle, right? With organic, it's bloody amazing. It's so easy. The close rate's higher, the booking rate's higher, the show-up rate is higher, the calls are easier, people, they know you, they like you, they trust you, they've watched you for hours on YouTube, they're excited to work with you. Organic, man. Organic. And I would say organic number 1, recurring pricing number 2.
So again, integrity.
Yeah.
It all comes through, doesn't it? Yeah. If someone's listening to this and they're sat there and maybe they've got a small coaching business, maybe they've got a service or a product business, like I said, what's something that they can do in the next week just to, I was going to say increase or grow, but actually maybe it's wider than that, just improve the quality of their life regarding their business?
I'm not God.
Well, you never know.
I'm not God. Well, look, I would say work out the bottleneck. What is your biggest bottleneck in your business right now? And if you can't find that, well, go and get help from someone that can come in and help you find it. And if you can find the bottleneck, what's the solution? And again, if you know the solution, get on with fixing it. If you don't know the solution, go and find someone that can help with the solution, get it fixed. And that's going to grow your business, right? Because wherever anyone's business is that's watching this right now, they're probably going to be in some kind of income range, generally, right? And they're going up a bit, they're going down a bit, they're in a range. To get out of that range, find your bottleneck, solve the bottleneck, and you're going to skyrocket through the range. So that's going to improve your business. And in terms of improving your life, again, I'm not God, right? But to me, the thing that drives me in life is, so we've got a mission statement behind the company: make money, have fun, and help people, right? And when I'm doing those 3 things, I'm happy and I feel good and I feel focused. And when I'm not feeling happy or focused or something's off, it's usually one of them is out of balance, So I'm chasing the money too much. I forgot to have fun. Or I'm having fun, but I'm not focusing on the clients, one of those 3 things. So when those 3 things are in alignment, so I would say, what are your 3 things, or what are your 2 things? Or why are you doing this, man? Why the hell are you doing it? When I sold the last company, I sat down one day, I had a coffee with my journal, and I wrote down, if I had I think it was 100 million in cash, like, what would I do every day? And what I would do every day is exactly what I do now. Just get on calls, talk about business, help people, make videos for fun, invest the money in real estate because that's very fun. Try and, build as much wealth as I can because that's like their game. I would do that whether I had what I've got now or even if I was a billionaire, I'd still do exactly what I'm doing right now. So that's why I know it's the right thing, So I would say, oh, you doing, what would you do if you had a bloody billion in cash? When you know that answer, that's what you really should be doing with your life.
I think it's so important. It's so important to know exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Will, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. It's really helpful.
Very fun. Thanks so much for having me, man.
If you like these episodes, feel free to subscribe to our Healthy Hustle newsletter below, where you'll get behind the scenes information from our guests, as well as from the studio operator who helps us create these cinematic episodes. It's also full of business advice and tips, and it will help you join the community of healthy entrepreneurs.